today's episode is going to be a little different than what we're used to. Alec and I are going to give an update on what we've been working on and what we've been spending our time with, as well as updating everyone on the show. And to follow social distancing guidelines, Alec is in Iowa with his family remote, and so we're doing this over FaceTime. And some people are watching on YouTube, so that explains the kind of grainy video. But Alec, how are you?
I am good. I am surviving. Unfortunately, as they might say, I'm in Iowa, but I'm hanging in there. You're looking real nice with the tie-dye shirt right now.
The tie-dye shirt, and I was starting to get some real cred on the mountain having such long hair. But
I was going to say, I thought I was challenging people with the long hair right now. I did not expect you to come back from Colorado with that fit right now.
Yeah, I think I'll definitely get a haircut when this is over. I don't know if I'm committing to the ponytail or not, but we'll see. We'll see when I get in the chair and what happens.
As co-creator of the Commonwealth, do I have a say in the ponytail being there or not being there?
What's your input?
I think you were a hard 10 pre ponytail, and I don't know where we're at right now.
Okay.
I'm not saying if it went up, and I'm not saying it went down, but you were a hard 10 pre ponytail.
Okay, I will take that into consideration slightly.
All right.
Yeah. So what have you been filling your time with?
The question is, what haven't I been trying to do? I'm trying my best, to stay occupied outside of work. I kind of told you before that Megan and I really dove into Catan just to make you happy, because for those of you who don't know, before Nick left us and went to Colorado, he did gift us a Catan set, and Megan and I have kind of taught ourselves to play and are very excited about that. However, kind of on the business side, Firespring, a couple of weeks back, we did launch 30-minute free and virtual strategic sessions for nonprofits, small businesses, large businesses, really anyone that needs that right now. And so we counted it up over the weekend, but if you include the ones I had today, I've had 53 unique strategic sessions. So that unique is just with different clients or prospects over the last 3 weeks. And so really just kind of hearing what people are going through, offering ideas, acting as that sounding board, and trying to provide a little bit of direction. But realistically, Nick, the big thing at the end of the day is just trying to provide optimism and the sense of opportunity, even though we are in such a difficult time right now.
Yeah, so it's been cool to see that program for Firespring develop. It started with some shaky video that you've recorded yourself that like, I'll just fill my time doing this. And the entire team of Firespring has gotten behind it. So throughout these 53 interviews, what have both you been hearing? And then we'll eventually get into like what you say back, but like what is the consensus of the businesses you're talking to?
It's really interesting because, and I said this in a video on my LinkedIn on Friday, and I keep going back to it, is the first week that I had these, it was honestly panic mode. And I don't necessarily mean like, hey, we're ready to just quit everything and we have to never do anything ever again, full on panic. But there was a sense of panic and a sure sense of anxiety right now in terms of what do we do? How do we make up for our fundraising events that we've lost? What do we do in terms of our messaging? How do we ask people for donations? Because we need them, especially as a nonprofit. But how do we do that in such a tough economic time? But as you kind of look at it on the business side, it's the same thing. I'm sure you and anybody who's listening to this or watching this knows that your email inbox right now is flooded with our response to COVID-19, from CEOs and director of marketings and your organizations, whether that be, something like a hobby town or it's a restaurant. And so it's really been talking through and that's the big thing, is just looking for direction on how do we do anything? Because so many people, whether it was a brick and mortar or a nonprofit, they need people being together for events or in your stores and in your locations in order to either bring in donations or make money.
And what's your response to that when people say that?
Yeah, Nick, I've been looking at it in two ways, and I will say this over and over again. There are two buckets right now that whether you are the biggest business in the world or you are a tiny nonprofit with 3 individuals, you have to focus on 2 aspects. The first bucket is you have to look at a quick turn pivot or a quick turn solution. And so what I mean by that is what can you do right now for the next 1 to 2 months that can be a quick turn solution that you wouldn't have had to do if COVID-19 wasn't here. You wouldn't have had to make this change. But what can we do to bring dollars in right now? That's that continued business, whether that is someone who's always shopped at your store, always donated, or it's completely new business. What are we going to do there? Then the second part is this long-term brand recognition. You have to continue to build awareness for your organization or your business. So that way, when there is that influx back into the economy, whenever that does happen, I've been saying 4 to 6 months, you have to plan for, because anything less, you don't want to be caught off guard. And so if you look at it of July through September, when there is this influx back in the economy, you have to have been talking to your audience. So when they do go back to spend money, they might find another place if they don't hear from you. So it's really important to continue to build out that brand awareness through impact and value. So if you're a business, you have to show them the value that you can bring to them, whether that's through resources, through products, through services. And if you're a nonprofit, it's all about your why and your mission and the impact you make on the communities you serve.
Have you seen any creative solutions in the to fix the short term, the like matter of weeks, not months? Like what have you seen to put a Band-Aid on that?
Yeah, absolutely. A perfect example, one of my clients, and I can kind of go into details for not one of my clients that I've seen, but
okay.
Hobbytown is one of our clients at Firespring, and it was actually the Sunday before this really took off. And so if you remember, the NBA was canceled on a Wednesday, and then the NCAA tournament was canceled, that Thursday, Friday, and it was that following Sunday. So right at the cusp of really this getting big. And, I was talking to their director of marketing, and I said, what can we do? And so we kind of came up with that pathway of the curbside pickup and making sure that every store in the country, if they're able to, so not in a mall, they could have that curbside pickup. That's something that they wouldn't have offered before. So now you can call on the phone. You can say, hey, I want my Catan, or I want a puzzle, just have it ready. I'll pay over Venmo or cash or whatever it is. And so that was kind of that first tweak. A couple of other examples that I've seen. I know some sports teams, I think it was the Oklahoma City AA baseball team. They're an affiliate of the Dodgers. They were tying together, if you spent $25 at the gift shop, you get 2 rolls of toilet paper. And so there's different things like that. But I think one of the industries that has been incredible has been the restaurant industry. They've been hit really hard. And so it's adapting to that. What can you do with curbside pickup and delivery and changing your menus, going to family meals, things of that nature. And then the other one that I saw, Hulu jumped on it right away. I got an email. I had 2 free trials with 2 different emails from my college days, and $2.99 for the month. They sent out that special offer the moment the stay-at-home order was made, in a couple of states. And so that was just a genius way to really get out there and provide value for these individuals that, for lack of a better term, are quarantined at home for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. You mentioned that every communication we've gotten from a business has been our response to COVID-19. How are you recommending people talk about it?
Yeah. Nick, it's a great question, and it's one of the questions that I get in every session, no matter who it's with. The first time, you do have to mention it, right? You see, this is how we have been impacted by it, and this is how we're responding. In that messaging, in that tone, it has to be really transparent. It can't come across as fake. It can't come across as you're just trying to slide past it. You have to be transparent, especially on the nonprofit or the small business side, the local restaurants, things of that nature. You can be really upfront and you can be really transparent about how that's impacting you. But then after that, everybody knows what's happening. Everybody knows the effect that this is having on not only the individuals, but also on small businesses and local businesses especially. And so you do not have to address it every single time that you reach out to your audience. In fact, once it's out there the first time, then that's where I'm saying go back to value, go back to resources. So if you were a nonprofit, you go back to value and impact. If you're a small business, maybe in the education space or in the like Hobbytown space, you go back to how do you spend time at home? You can lead with that aspect of things, and it can make a big difference. The other piece of this is how many emails have you gotten that has a video of a CEO or a business leader talking to you about the impact? Have you gotten any?
I don't read my email marketing stuff.
However, if you pulled up all of your inbox and it said a message, and you saw it was just text, and there was a third one that was clearly a video, and it was a 30 or 45-second video, you have an opportunity now to stand out and be really transparent. And so that's one of the recommendations I'm having is, go the route of video more so than ever before, especially in this impact message, because that's the only way that you can really get to see your business, or they can get to hear you, or they can get to know you a little bit better. And it also offers extreme transparency and authenticity at a time where human connection is really the only thing that I think a lot of people are searching for.
Yeah. I also think you're in an interesting position to, assessing the economic impact. How many of the business people have you called that throughout the conversation that they've decided to close down, or that they need to lay off a large group of employees? Or
Yeah. Honestly, Nick, most of them. In some way, shape, or form, there is a concern whether that's happened yet or it will happen. And my whole goal is, I always say, that's worst case scenario. Let's plan backwards. So if that's this line, what do we have to do to not get there? And if we already know that's an option, that gives us the kind of opportunity to try anything to make sure that doesn't happen. But yeah, I've talked to a lot of companies and organizations that are going through that same decision making, where they're just trying to make sure that we can pay employees and make sure that we can continue to function. And that's where that quick turn pivot is so important. What can we do right now to make sure that we have this opportunity to continue working? If that's all it is, if we know the number and the objective for the next 2 to 4 months, that's why it's so important to kind of set that. I think that's where I kind of mentioned at the beginning that first week was kind of that sensitive panic and anxiety mode. I think the last couple of sessions I had, especially last week and even today, were more about optimism, because they've had maybe a 2 or 3 week window to kind of press that panic button, regroup and assess things, and then start to strategize. And so even though we are, making quick turn decisions and we have to act quickly, it still has to be on strategy, still needs to be on brand. You might just have to tweak it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And how are you staying optimistic throughout all of this? Because I'm sure those calls are not fun.
Yeah.
Always.
Catan. No, I think at the end of the day, this is what I signed up for. Leaving journalism and going to marketing, and especially Firespring, we are a purpose-driven company, and our whole goal is that people can achieve what they want to and go out and do better for their communities. I think I mentioned this to you before. I mentioned it to some of my buddies before. Like, when I look at myself years down the road, what I really want to do, no matter where it's at, is being able to help people achieve their dreams in the world of business or nonprofits. And so having these conversations, it's so funny. And I'll be honest, there are sometimes it's 2 minutes before the meeting, Nick, and I'm like, this could be a tough one, and then 5 minutes in, I've got chills, and I'm like standing up on my chair, and I'm apologizing to someone who I've never talked to before, who lives in, Wisconsin or California or Spain. And I'm saying, I'm sorry, I'm just really excited right now about the opportunity, because in every obstacle that we are facing right now, there is a pathway forward. And I think that is like reason to be optimistic alone.
Yeah. All right. Well, I am happy to hear you're optimistic. Like, it does make me feel better that like, I don't know, hearing things that aren't negative makes me less negative.
It is hard. That's one of the reasons I kind of told you this yesterday. I could have gone back to Lincoln, but I ended up staying in Iowa for another week here at Megan's house because when I am not working, I am also consuming news because a lot of my clients or prospects are asking, what is the news? What are you seeing? I have to be informed. I couldn't just go in and act like I have an idea when I have no idea what's going on. And so it's this balance of getting all of this positivity in these meetings and optimism, but then the other hours of the day I'm consuming some news that is on the pessimistic or even to a degree like of that depressing and anxious side. And so it's really a kind of a balance, and you have to work through that in every way. And I think every day right now is just kind of a battle for everybody.
Yeah. All right. Well, I do have some Commonwealth specific questions.
Hey.
Yes. Alec and I normally meet once a week, once every other week.
Pre-Colorado is like once a day, but
yes.
Post-Colorado, yeah.
Yeah. And just to give everyone an update, I was living in Colorado. I was working at a ski resort, and while there, I did things like I got a press pass to the X Games. And then I had interviews planned in Colorado, but the ski resort I was working at was shut down because ski resorts were a hotbed in Colorado. So I came back to Nebraska. I was in quarantine for 2 weeks with my girlfriend. We made a podcast called Quarantinecation. And I'm now out of quarantine. And beforehand, but without the pandemic, my plan was to use my X Games press pass and springboard that into getting interviews with major sports franchises in Colorado. And then I had interviews lined up for that. There was one interview that I was getting scheduled that was similar to like the Cody Cruz episode, or the Cruz, the Junebug episode with the guy went to prison on a marijuana crime. And then I was planning to go to, I was working on 4 live events. One was very similar to the first one we did, where there was a politician would have opened it with a town hall, and then it goes into me interviewing an entrepreneur on stage. And we had interest among sponsors, which is like a key on our end that it was our first chance to make real money of like selling sponsors for this event. That event was scheduled for the evening of April 30th, and that is obviously canceled. The word cancel was used. I hope that after this is over, we can work on rescheduling it.
Right.
But who knows how long that'll be. And then going to the X Games opened my eyes that I can apply for press passes and get a press pass to things. So I was working with a music festival, Bonnaroo, it's down in Tennessee, to get a press pass to that music festival. Miley Cyrus is headlining. And how that works is, so once I got approved for a press pass, it would have gotten me into the event for free, but I still need but then I get a list of the publicist of all artists that are there. And then I have to convince the publicist for me to talk to the artist. And Miley Cyrus is headlining, and I've been waiting my whole life to talk to Miley Cyrus. And even if I go, that doesn't like lock me into Miley Cyrus, but that is postponed. So I now, and my whole short-term solution is totally up in the air. My first response was, now's probably the time to ease up on this and get a job. But as you just touched on, no one's hiring.
Yeah.
So I called my a friend and someone who was featured on the Commonwealth, Ali Schwanke, the other night, and her comment was that no one is talking about TikTok. That I am very familiar with the podcast space, and if I can get more comfortable in video and understand that platform, I can come out of this and brand myself as a new media expert.
Yeah.
So I've gotten really big into TikTok. I have 2 videos with over 50,000 plays so far, and I've uploaded 12. So I'm batting decent at that.
Yeah.
And then there's other like Commonwealth thing, like to-do items that we just hadn't gotten around to. For example, our logo, like if you're listening like if you're listening to this on a podcast, our logo sucks. We paid $15 on we paid someone $15 on Fiverr to do the logo, which like it worked to get us starting, but we're to the point where we need a new one. So I found a really talented artist who sent me the new logo in color, Alec, which you saw like the last one.
Yeah.
The color, he sent me 2 colors, like a yellow gold or just a straight gold. And the straight gold, it looks sick, and he's sending me the final one like anytime.
All right.
And then
Heck yeah.
Yes. And then from there I think I found 2 developers to help us with our WordPress site. We currently have a website, but it's nothing too fancy. But now that we have like a logo down, we can work on like branding outside of that.
Yeah, the foundation.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Then TikTok rebrand. Oh, yes. What do you think about, as like my editor, what do you think about me still interviewing people? Because like if you see on TV, they're still doing interviews if they're 6 feet apart.
Yeah, I mean, I've also seen television shows this last week just with Zoom meetings. You know, like they are just live recording Zoom setups. So, you know, I think it's up to the way that person feels. You know, I have seen some places that people post if they are with other people and they are kind of getting a little bit raked through the coals for not social distancing. You know, I think it also depends on the state you're in, but at the same time, I think everybody should be kind of in that same mode. And with the technology you have, there's the argument of, hey, you know, you should FaceTime people, because I think it does create, like, I think what we're doing right now is fantastic. Like, I think it's really authentic. I'm in Megan's basement. All of Jason, her dad's helmets are everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, you have an opportunity to see this raw and authentic side of individuals. Is that to be said that it's not possible or you shouldn't pursue it? No. If someone lived in Lincoln and they'd be willing to, you know, sit on top of their car and you're willing to sit on top of your car and you put the laptop in the middle, you know, that's something that you can do. I think that most people are kind of trying to avoid being inside other people's homes or like business meetings, like things like that, just to be careful. But I think you should continue what you're trying to do with the TikTok and YouTube of like, hey, let's reach out to people and see how they're quarantining. You know, what are they doing to stay disruptive during their time? You know, I think that's a great way to, you know, and I'm not saying that I'm the leader of that, but I'm a great start. But I'm guarantee you there are all the people you've already interviewed and then some. You know, I think there's a ton of opportunity there with, you know, what are you doing to stay disruptive during your quarantine?
Yeah. Okay. And then I mentioned this before we started recording, but I am also making a like Commonwealth series where we interview TikTok influencers on how, like, basically how they grew their platform. And with that one, like with general interviews, I was hesitant to keep on booking them because to me, it seems like a weird time to be like, oh, how did you start your career? Type of questions. But of like all industries, TikTok, more people are spending time on that medium. And I've seen like a bunch of people joke of like, I finally caved and downloaded TikTok.
Right.
That I think it's more appropriate. Like, I feel more comfortable like starting the interview by like asking one question of like, oh, how are you doing during quarantine? And then going into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think you're right. More people than ever right now. When they're just sitting at home, it's like, oh, I might as well try Mad Men, or I might as well try this. And TikTok is one of those things that people have really been going to during this time.
Okay. And I like your suggestion. We talked about this last time we talked about FaceTiming in prior guests. And doing like basically just like I interviewed people like I just interviewed you.
Yeah, absolutely. See what they're up to.
Yeah. Okay, sweet.
Random ideas off the top of your head.
Yeah.
That's literally what the Commonwealth was.
Yeah, and I do drinking beer.
Random ideas with the tomato beer. Actually, I think that's empty, but I would love a tomato beer. Right?
Yeah, I'm drinking a beer too.
I look forward to so much the afternoon that we are back in Duffy's backlot. Shout out to Duffy's and backlots and patios all over the place.
Yeah, and Duffy's, I have seen some posts and stuff. I like every bar. They're hurting. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Last thing, I'm making a slight rebrand, and I changed our URL to the Commonwealth Media.
The Commonwealth. I love that.
Yes. After I sent a note to the Nuggets after my X Games thing, and they gave a hard and fast no, because we're just like two guys doing a podcast, and saying you're like a media company just sounds more official.
Way bigger.
Yeah. So while I'm doing a rebrand, the Commonwealth Media, I think it'll be easier to get into the Bonnaroos and.
Well, and you know, it's not only sounding more official. You kind of undersell it there. I think the other thing is that the Commonwealth can grow to be whatever it wants to be. You know, there's no umbrella right now, and the Commonwealth is the umbrella, and that's what you're really working on right now with TikTok, especially. But at the end of the day, the Commonwealth podcast is just a piece of this, and it can go much bigger than this.
Yeah, totally. All right, Alec. Well, is your dog with you? Is Duddits there?
He is, yeah. Ann Oberon is here. Megan's brother's dog, Oberon. He's a husky mix. And it has been fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Duddits is suddenly the greatest dog in the whole world because he doesn't have to worry about humans because he's got two puppies to play with.
Oh my God.
I know. So, but the next time you see him, he'll be exhausted. I guarantee you.
Yeah, I bet. Well,
and the next time that I see you, you will get your foul language excluded because butt worked in Catan.
Oh, we'll see.
I promise you that.
We'll see.
I have won 2 straight games. I'm trying to convince Nichols' family to play one more time tonight, so that way I can take a 3rd straight dub.
Okay, well, I hope you lose. When should we release this? Should we wait till Thursday?
I don't. All the rules are pretty much out now. You know what I mean? Like you could release it tonight at midnight, and you might have the same success. Okay. Thursday, of course, always useful, but Monday and Thursday. But you know, if you released it tomorrow and we make the same push, we wouldn't have any difference than if we did before.
Sweet. All right. Perfect. All right. Well, great chatting, and stay positive and all that during this.
I miss you. I'll talk to you soon.
Miss you too, Ben. All right.
Bye.
Peace out.